Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming out to King Paris. Contesting official production. So I did my thing for her. She joined in with me. Now we getting groovy, hotter than jacuzzi. So sorry, won't you slow it down? See the other fellas like hating. They try to do it like we ain't the same. Front to back, shorty, side to side. You with a soldier now. Cause it's so like
Hey, it's your girl Nay coming to you with another episode of As Told by Nay, the podcast. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and let's talk about it. Hey y'all, it's your girl Nay coming to you with another episode of As Told by Nay, the podcast. Today is Thursday, of course. Thank you for joining me for another conversation. Now, I just want to go ahead and talk to the sensitivity of tonight's conversation. We're going to be discussing the climate that is pretty much the world right now. We're seeing all of the protesting and things going on. They're calling this the biggest civil rights movement ever. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I have a panel of guests here tonight that are going to introduce themselves here in a minute, but I just want to make sure that you guys that are watching, tuning in, commenting, let's be respectful of one another. The whole point of having this conversation and this dialogue tonight is to spark change, to bring awareness, and to talk a little bit about, what happens next. Before we do that, though, I do want to take a quick moment of silence. It was brought to my attention that today marks 8 years since Rodney Mitchell was murdered due to police brutality. There was a march and a they paid tribute to him tonight. So I did want to go ahead and, because that was right here in our community, a story that we're all aware of. So I do want to take a moment to just kind of take a moment of silence for him. And all right. So as we get started, let's start this way and then go this way. I want you guys to introduce yourselves and let the people know what it is that you do.
All right, I'll start first. I'm Terrell Salem from Sarasota. I'm a general contractor in the county of Sarasota and a firefighter for the Sarasota County Fire Department. And I'm actually a planning board member for the city of Sarasota.
Hey guys, it's your favorite detective. My name is Chandra Polanese. I've been in law enforcement for 6 years. I've been a detective for 1 year, and I am here just to give a little bit of the law enforcement side of it. And I'm excited to be here.
Cool. Y'all know who I am. It's your girl, Nay. Hey, hey, hey.
Hey y'all, it's Elena. I'm with No Strings Publishing. I'm here on As Told by Name just to give some insight and comments about what to do next. So thank you guys for having me and tuning in to As Told by Name.
And we have one more guest that is on his way, Mr. Leroy Butler. He will be here shortly, and he'll be able to kind of add to this dialogue as well. I brought him on because he's very active within the Newtown community. He's very vocal about his community and very prideful in where he comes from. And I just kind of want to have a little bit of dialogue with him as well in regards to resources and, again, what's next. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive right into this. How this all began. So there was a video that hit the airwaves and it was shared just like any other video that hits the airwaves and gets shared and shared and shared until it becomes viral. That was of Mr. George Floyd losing his life very tragically. And what we saw happen after that was this spark. It started as a spark and then it grew and grew and grew, and it is what it is now. From that has been so many different Black Lives Matter movements. There have been so many different protests, which has sometimes turned into rioting and also turned into looting, all in the name of I can't breathe. Hands up, don't shoot. We tied, period. So I kind of want to start there. And what sparked all of this was, again, police brutality. So we're going to talk a little bit about that just to go ahead and get the elephant out the room. Has anybody here right now had any run-ins with the police that may not have been favorable or what you felt was unnecessary? Kind of opened your eyes to the fact that this is really happening.
No,
Nobody.
Personally, I haven't.
That's a blessing. That's a blessing because that's not a lot of people's stories. I can say I had a small run-in with the police, and I share this story just because it kind of opened my eyes to reality a little more than they had already been opened. I grew up right here in Sarasota County, Newtown. I was very sheltered, as some people like to say, but my surrounding was very, people look like me. My teachers look like me. My community look like me. I have white friends. It was integrated, but it wasn't like a harsh integration. Like I have white friends, I have Spanish friends, I have, there was nothing too crazy. When I went to college, I went to Tallahassee, the illustrious Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. And there, y'all know I had to do it
Every time.
Anybody who's ever lived in Tallahassee or went to school there, there's this little area called Kalan that is, it's a little not diverse. And I had a small situation there, riding around in the car with a couple of my homeboys and a good girlfriend of mine. And we got pulled over by the police for no reason. And I wish I would have known now. I mean, I wish I would have known then what I know now, just about how they're not allowed to do certain things. And that's one thing I do want to talk about with you guys is knowing your rights, how to go about when you are pulled over by the police and things may or may not take a left turn. But with that came, hey, come on in. We got pulled over because someone had made a call that there was suspicious activity happening in the neighborhood, and they pulled us over, shining lights in the car, guns drawn immediately. Like, I mean, as soon as we stopped, I look back, I see them approaching from both sides of the car with guns pointed into the car. And it was just a very scary moment. And then asking, like, what's going on? Why are we being pulled over? The reasoning we got was that they got a call. There was a break-in earlier that day, and there was a car being suspicious in the neighborhood. They came to check it out. They wanted the driver to get out of the car. They're asking for ID, which we didn't have. We told them where we were going. We would go to school here. They're asking for student ID, which I was the only one that had. It just was a lot for no reason. And again, the whole time, guns in the car. So thank God we walked away from that, everybody alive and well. But it just was at that moment, I was just like, that's crazy. I don't think that would have happened if, you know, we looked like we belonged in that neighborhood. And who's really to say what somebody looks like who belongs in that neighborhood? Before you got here, I kind of asked if anybody had any unfavorable run-ins with the police that they would like to shed light on. I don't know if you have a particular story you would like to share or not.
No, I have run-ins, but I don't have any.
Okay, that's fine. So with that, I'm going to then go to the law enforcement representation that we have on this panel to kind of speak about that a little bit. So for you as law enforcement in the climate that we're in right now, there's a lot of, and excuse my language, fuck the police going on right now. There's a lot of all cops are bad cops. There's a lot of the police and the justice system ain't for us, X, Y, and Z. As an African-American female in this climate, having an understanding of what police brutality is and that racism does exist, but also wearing a badge. How do you feel right now?
It's the hardest thing, and I've had this conversation with Elena and Nay, who are two of my best friends. And it's hard because you see both sides of it and you get pulled both directions. So I support, but it's so hard because I can't support a lot of the local protests because of the police and all that, because that part I don't agree with, because at the end of the day, I am still a cop. But I need people to understand, like, I'm a cop, I have morals, I have goals. That stuff, it just won't happen in front of me. But people need to understand that I'm only one person, and I don't, I'm not a cop in other states. I'm not a cop in other counties. So I can only do what I can do here. But it's hard because, I can't win.
So, yes.
So to add on to what Chandra is saying, and I think that is a direct correlation to human nature in America. We like to find scapegoats for some systematic oppression and systematic abuse. It's not the police that's the problem. It's America as a whole that is historically abusive to African Americans. Just like 70% of prisoners are black and brown. Clearly, black and brown don't commit more crimes than white. And clearly, police officers are not out to get you. It's 99.9% of police officers are great police officers. That 0.1%, just like in African American communities, it's like 0.01% of people that that they're renegades, and at the end of the day, they justify their actions via the historical, which is a muffled message by far. You shouldn't do it that way. But it's not a police after police thing. It's really, I think those words on a ground level is in all reality, African Americans, poor African Americans are so isolated, they don't deal with whites unless they're dealing with police. So their conceptual definition of white America is police officer. So it's not If I get in the car wreck, I'm calling the police. If somebody break in my house, I'm calling the police. So they're there to serve. There is that small percent of police officers that, because of their miseducation through media, through, as Donald Trump calls, fake news, that same fake news hangs us as African Americans. So I don't feel sorry for him. The news painting me as a bad guy. Try being a super predator. Try being an African American man. Every time you see the news, arrested for gun charges, arrested for this, arrested for that. OJ got arrested for getting his own shit back. Like OJ did 9 years in prison for getting his own stuff back that was stolen from him. Like, come on, man. So it's not a police thing. Don't be scared of police.
So it's more of an exposure thing.
Yeah.
Like lack of exposure.
On both ends.
Well, just to piggyback on that a little bit, what people need to realize and what I've come to realize is, yes, there is a small amount of officers that don't do the right thing, but that small amount is amplified. So it seems like all of us aren't doing the right thing. Like, it's rare that you see, videos of the good officers doing the right thing. What they amplify, what the media amplifies is, obviously what they should be. I'm just speaking in the whole. Yeah. What you always see is the bad in cop.
Right. And I think too, what is happening with this is a lot of dialogue people pick up and carry is that, well, if you're not saying anything or you're not doing anything, you're just as bad as the others. Well, there are a lot of cops that have never been faced with their colleague doing something inappropriate and have to speak out, or being in a situation, or even as a bystander and seeing something inappropriate and having to say anything. So it looks like you see these videos of one cop committing the crime, and then there's other cops around him that are allowing it or don't say anything. And it's just kind of like, well, that's what they all do. They take care of each other. That it's the buddy system. One does it, but he's going to turn a blind eye to it. And it's like, not all of them are like that. And if put in that position, they're not all going to turn a blind eye. But again, it's amplified because what we do see is the negatives. I can definitely agree with that.
But so I agree that it is amplified more. We do see the bad, but I think that also goes back to what Leroy was saying about I think people in journalism really want to expose the system. We have to do that because it's the system. So when one cop does something like this, then there's usually a whole system in place that, keeps these things going on, or, one is too many. So I think, one cop like, what's his name? I don't even know. The one who murdered George Floyd, one is too many. And those type of police officers like him are bred from systems that are in place. So it may be a small amount, but the system is so big that it makes a lot of noise when a few cops do certain things. So I just think that's why it's amplified like it is, even if it is a small amount. Like we know usually the interactions with good cops, we know them personally. Chandra is my friend. I know that personally. I personally know, but we know that there's good cops. We experience them. Right. We got 5 people at the table who just said they didn't have a bad interaction with a police officer. So it's not what we do know, it's what we don't know. And then when things happen, they have to be exposed because that speaks to a greater system behind closed doors that would damage. It's more detrimental to the community when it happens.
Right. So I have someone that reached out to me, and I want to bring her in via camera to have a little bit of this dialogue with us when we talk community. She reached out to me. She is a Caucasian woman, and she wanted to know what she could do to let her voice be heard. How can she help bridge the gap? How can she, bring awareness more so of, I hear you, I see you, I understand that this is wrong. Again, she's right here from same community and pretty much saying, hey, I want to be an ally for change. So I kind of want to bring her on because what we're going to move into a little bit here next is the protesting versus the rioting versus the looting and what that's doing to us as a community. What is it helping? What is it harming? And what you guys view is on that. And I want her to be able to speak her piece too a little bit. So if we can get her on here real quick.
My God.
Hey, girl.
Hey. Can you hear me? It says I'm muted. Okay. I'm charging my phone, so that's why there's the weird, awkward angle. But thank you for having me on. And my heart is racing. Like, I want to cry and throw up at the same time because, like, we all went to school together, and now look at us. We're educating, we're empowering, we're uniting people. Like, we are the change. And the more I look around and see people uniting, I'm like, yeah, that's God's children right there. All right, sorry, I had to get that out. Woo! All right, so let's talk. I reached out to you and I said, let's talk without it being awkward. Can we do that without anyone getting offended and upset?
We can.
Because I want to preface with everything that I say, my intention is to say it with love and from the heart. And I am not trying to break barriers. I'm trying to build bridges. All right. So I think a couple of you were in my class. Anyone in 08, 2008? Or were you guys 07, 06?
No.
All right. So I went to Booker Middle. Tuttle, my name's Stephanie Zegar. I'm from Sarasota, Florida. And I went to Tuttle, Booker Middle, and Booker High. Wait, no. In high school, my name was Stephanie Peterson. In school, y'all might not know Zegar. So yeah, I grew up in Sarasota, and my best friend in middle school was Shaniqua. And I used to walk from Conrad Avenue and 17th Street down through to Shaniqua's house, through Newtown Estates to school. That was my life. Like, if that's my perception. That's why I feel the way I do, because I've lived. I want to be very careful with my words, because that's what I want to talk to you guys about. Because I feel like, as a white woman right now, like, anything and everything I say will be picked apart and it's wrong. Like, I can't say anything right. And if I'm quiet, I'm wrong. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? You know? Oh God, there's so much to say. All right, let me get to it. I know we're talking about police brutality, but let's talk about the real problem, and that is the mass incarceration. And I don't know if you guys have heard of this book. Have any of you read this?
I have.
Of course.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. This is the police brutality is a trickle down effect. I feel like the problem is deeply ingrained.
Hold on. Something's going on with your volume.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
You're back.
It's not necessarily the police brutality. It's the fact that there's mass incarceration, there's for-profit prisons, there's targeting of communities, then eventually I feel like the police officers become programmed. I know we have a police officer on the panel right now, but I feel like sometimes the police officers don't have the intestinal fortitude to say, you know what? No, that's wrong. Like, no. I feel like they end up just shutting up and just acting like nothing happened. And then that creates this huge problem, because now bigger things go by, people don't stand up, and then next thing you know, over the years, it's become normal to do these things. I'm not giving excuses. I'm trying to explain some human behavior, but the problem that I see is it's the incarceration. I honestly, I don't know how much time I have, but I was going to propose maybe we can have like a book club and start going through this book and like educate people as to what the real problem is. What do you think about that?
Okay, so I agree. You know, the Jim Crow book, you read it, I've read it. We're familiar with the laws and the implementation of the Jim Crow era and those sorts of things. But personally, you know, I'm not. I don't know you, so it's not like a problem like with you. But the problem that I have is if there's a group of Black people saying that this is a problem, the problem is people saying, no, I think it's this. I have experienced and feel it, and I see it, and I deal with it. So yes, this is the problem because I live it daily, every day. So I think people can contribute, like, hey, this may be something else that we can delve into, but people just want to say, no, that's not the problem. It's mass incarceration. Well, we have to go back to that book and talk about
I agree.
So I just think that people come and they say people that, I mean, you walk through Newtown and, but there's people who, generations of it, grandparents, aunts, uncles. And so if this is what is the experience of Black people saying that we really think police brutality is matter, and this is the topic at hand, I've been dealing with people on Facebook that say, no, maybe I think it's the baby daddy's not being in the home. That's not what we're talking about. So
I hear you. I didn't get my point across. That is definitely not what I'm trying to say. But as the police brutality, that I understand that that's what's at the forefront right now. What I'm talking about with this book is more so I want to educate white people as well.
It's the wrong table.
Okay.
Because I feel like everything I say, you guys don't know.
No, I'm sorry.
You're good. You're good.
If you come into it,
I'm like, listen, you got to think of my perspective too. I feel like I'm really nervous and I'm not getting my point fully across because I know y'all are super in tune with what I'm trying to say.
If you come into it thinking that we're not going to want to listen to you and we're not going to want to understand you, then that's going to be your perception of the situation. And that's not what the case is.
All right. So I didn't want it to be awkward.
And someone's going to give their opinion, and there might not be the same opinion, but nobody's, attacking you or anything like that. It's just don't come into it thinking that we think you're going to offend us.
Okay.
No,
and I don't think you're wrong.
Right.
So so let me just redirect this just a little bit. Let me just redirect. So I definitely understand that mass incarceration is a problem. It is not the problem.
Right.
So educating people on
Yes.
cool, that's great. But let's talk about the problem. We can talk about another problem. We can have that on another show for sure. But right now I just kind of want to stay with where we're at. And when it comes to the police brutality, and then I want to kind of
Okay. Look, I got a story. I have a story.
Hold that story. Hold it.
All right.
Let me add this.
Okay.
So you mentioned that mass incarceration. I read the Michelle Alexander book, great book. But the whole police brutality and the things that are going on right now, this is an opening to a bigger situation. What we have is systemic racism.
Mm-hmm.
We have a judicial system that's racist. We have a medical system that's racist. We have a financial system that's racist. We have an educational system that's racist. So we have a whole system that was never designed for the Black man.
Mm.
That's where it all comes to. This system,
Absolutely.
the system was not designed for the Black man. So now we have a platform that we can work and make everything right, but we need the white allies to continue to come forward and say this is wrong. And we can overhaul all of these systems and get us onto a one united America.
Absolutely.
And the only way we can do that is if we have people be honest and know that the system was never designed for the Black slave in America. That's the only way.
Absolutely. So how do you, this is just about 20 minutes of my life, my experience. You guys don't know who I am. You don't know fully. We could talk about this for days. What you just said, absolutely. I 100% agree that pretty much every single facet of your life was set up for failure. And I can see that. And I want to be a part that, you said the financial, the educational, the judicial. I can only work as one person, on this level. So what does that look like? Does that look like going to your politicians? I mean, I'm at the point now with my own advocacy. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I have my own issues. I went to Afghanistan twice. I advocate for my health. I advocate for veterans. I have a nonprofit that's going. I didn't introduce myself. I'm also, I got my master's degree in Master's of Science in Oriental Medicine from East West College. I'm one board away from being an acupuncture physician. So the level
So
I'm
we can answer your question.
Excuse me, ma'am. So, to your point of mass incarceration, in order to understand anything, you have to understand the history of incarceration in America. And once again, incarceration, prison systems were built on labor. So if you're a felon, you can't get a good job. Labor was exploited. Back in the days when slavery ended, and if you look at the geographical, in the United States geographics, where the African Americans are and where the prisons are located, down south. Once we left slavery and abolished slavery, you send the African Americans and the brown to prison to exploit them for labor. So mass incarceration was targeted. It's for-profit, you said it, for-profit prisons. Yeah, that's no joke in a capitalistic society. We need somebody to exploit for labor. So don't let Donald Trump and all them fool you. We want the Mexicans out. No, we don't want the Mexicans out because they do it for less. It's a big system. So mass incarceration is not a black problem. Police brutality is not a black problem. It's an American problem. We're historically attacked. Like Mr. Salem said, this is a systematic thing. And through education, once you're educated enough to know the history, you can see the remnants of it today. So it's like not so much African Americans commit more crime and the black fathers are not in the home. No, you're taking the black fathers out of the home because we statistically don't have the numbers to commit more crime than white America. We statistically don't have the capital to fight the same charge as white America. Quantitatively, we are running a race with one leg. So man, that book is awesome, but we have to understand the dynamics. I don't, like you said your qualifications, I love them. I came in here with a Rodney Mitchell girl. I don't know George Floyd. I don't know George Floyd to save my life. But I know this kid right here who was gunned down by the police officer in Sarasota, Florida, graduated from college, on his way to teaching at Bayshore High School or Palmetto High School, he was trying to coach, and he gets shot over a seatbelt. That's systematic, and nothing happens. That is systematic. So that Black Lives Matter movement, no, Black Lives don't matter. You know what Black Lives matter to white people? When they're on the basketball court, a football field, on the television screen like Denzel Washington. Black lives will only matter to white people when you have an emotional reaction to somebody dying of injustice. And for the police officers, or not just police officers, the people who sit around and watch injustice, there is no other word for them. They're cowards. They don't have fortitude. That's what cowards do. If you're a friend or you're a fraternity and you stand for what's right, if I got friends right now, when they're wrong, they're wrong. I won't tell them in public. But when we get home, hey, bro, that was wrong. And then like you hold everybody accountable. You hold yourself accountable because you can't say you're this man of moral, man of principle if you watch somebody shoot somebody. Like, and that goes to say too, not just to attack you. I'm front line in my neighborhood. There's a situation going on in my neighborhood right now that I think is disgusting. People are joking about someone having a firearm to their back, basically in a car. Like they're making jokes about it. It's like shit again. What's funny about somebody who can literally lose their life in a split second? Like what's funny about that? Like nothing is funny about that. And it goes back to education. And the same thing is white America, the media outlets, journalism. I go back to what my girl said. She said it best. When grandma cooking in the kitchen and that chicken smell good, it's real advertising. You find your way to the kitchen, right? So a journalist is only going to write what people want to read. They don't want to read there's 5 black professionals up here. They want to read I'm a thug with gold chain. She work at the strip club. She running the chicken joint. He's selling dope. That's what they won't read. They don't want to read firefighter, police, teachers, radio. They don't want to read that. And that's the truth of it. Think about what Americans go home every day to watch. The Sopranos, Mob Wives, Breaking Bad. They love it. Queen of the South. They don't want to watch people doing the right thing. We are the scapegoat for that dynamic. African Americans are the scapegoat for every dynamic. It was a crime to know how to read if you were black. What's the most liberating thing in the world? Literacy. So even with that book, Mass Incarceration, it doesn't matter when the Title I schools, like Mr. Salem said, have a reading proficiency of less than 60%. If you can't read, you can't comprehend, and you can't understand the history to even understand how to make a movie.
And not to mention, those books aren't even a part of the curriculum because they don't want us
to know.
They don't
want to. They want you to know about the Holocaust and how bad it was. But in Black history and U.S. history books, you hear about Martin Luther King. You don't hear about Marcus Garvey. You don't hear they tell you of Harriet Tubman. They don't tell you about the 42 she had. And literally was the first African American woman to lead a blockade of war.
Story of history.
Like they don't want to know that. They don't want to glorify us in any way. And even with George Floyd, it's sad. This is why Black lives don't matter in America. This is a FUCK debate on the police being wrong for killing somebody for cigarettes and $20. My life don't matter. If it was old Susie from Siesta Key, she would have politely, Miss Susie, come on now, come put your hands on your back. I got it. You know better yet, let me call the sheriff, see if we can call your husband. But we responded too harshly. In America, African Americans get more splinters than white people. We get more referrals than white people. And you can Google the Sarasota Herald Tribune. African American kids are placed with IEPs and no medicine at a higher rate than the white student, for the simple fact, white teachers don't want to deal with it with taxpayer dollars. So if you don't want to deal with it, you write it off. Just like the prison system. We don't want to feed you. And it costs more to send us to prison. It costs more to send us to prison. But not the way.
But what I want to add is more so about the police officers. I don't agree with the F the police. Definitely don't agree with that. But you have to look back to how policing even started to really get an understand. Policing was started to pick up vagrants. That was ex-slaves who did not have a job. So you read this in Michelle's book too. You should have. Can I
say something? My whole life doesn't revolve around that book.
Yeah. So ex-slaves that were walking the streets, they were arrested and put in the labor camps, and they were leased out by the state to the farmers, to the same people who had them enslaved. They would lease them out. So you have a police department that was founded that way. It's inherently skewed against those people to this day. To this day, the police department is skewed toward them. And then on top of that, another issue is you have good cops, and I have a saying that good cops make all cops bad, because the good cops will falsify their reports to cover up for the cop that does the injustice. And that's where the problem comes in at. If a cop sees him do something and he makes his report and he don't put the facts in the report, he's just as guilty as the person that committed the crime. And he should be held liable for that. That's the problem. You gotta change it. People gotta stand out. And I know that it's hard for a cop, because think about it. If I'm your partner and I tell on you and they don't actually remove you from the force, now you know I told on you, and we going after a robbery suspect when he got a gun, this guy might let me get killed. So they are more likely to lie to protect their own life.
So I'm going to pause because I'm going to hold this conversation right here. Before we got into that dialogue, you have posed a great question. What's next? How do I help? What do? I want to educate white people, or my peers. So what I want to do is thank you for your input, and we'll talk more. And I do want to bring that particular conversation for another episode, but I do want you to stay tuned in, because we're going to dive into exactly what that looks like as far as what's next. So
I'd like to have a conversation with you. I'll be your ally or whatnot. I would like to work with you because you're workable. When you have people such as yourself that want to make change, that want to do great things, we have to exploit that. See, one thing I understand, as much as we can do whatever, Black folks, we can't change the system because we didn't design the system. Only white America can change this thing. Bingo. Only white America.
I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Nervous.
Absolutely.
I got nervous. My whole life doesn't revolve around that book. I just pulled it out before.
It's a great part. It's a great part.
Right. So thank you so much for reaching out to me. Thank you for being a good sport and being a part of this. We'll talk.
Hey, I love y'all. This is not me all the time. Okay, I was nervous.
All right, I will talk.
Be nervous,
Stephanie. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So, panel, we're gonna go right into it. So, when we ask what's next, what's been being said is politics. That's what's next. Once the protesting stops, once the rioting stops, once the looting stops, we gotta vote. We gotta this. We got that. We got to put people in position. But you kind of said something powerful. We can't change the system. So what does that look like? Does voting matter?
Yeah.
Should what do you guys take on that?
Well, first I would say that I don't like the rioting and the looting because I feel like they're burning people's business down. They're collecting insurance money. They're better off as a result. But I do like the protesting. The protesting must continue and must not stop until legislation is introduced, passed, and signed into law. Right. We cannot stop just because the politician promises to push legislation. We have to continue the fight and the protest and keep the pressure on our political leaders until the legislation is signed into law. Because if we stop, we won't never get it. We know that. I mean, historically, African Americans have voted Democrat, and Democrats have promised us everything for years, and we still haven't gotten much of anything. See what I'm saying? That's because they treat us good up to the election. Then all of a sudden, when they get in position, nothing happens.
You know why? Because there's a gap, I believe, in experience. So I believe, there's a lot of Black people go vote Republican because Democrat has suppressed you guys. I don't really think that those candidates so much oppress the Black community, but what I think is kind of what you said. We don't know what to do with that. So when you have people like, people are, Obama didn't do nothing for the Black community, this and this and this, but we always forget to go show up in other places. So they promise because, people think that these people don't study social media. They don't study. They see, what y'all asking for, Joe Biden put up a post and everybody like, oh yeah, right from over there. He said he gonna give us free food stamps forever. So people think that, you know what I'm saying? People think that these politicians don't. So they say what you want to hear. And then so when they say that stuff, then the Black community don't hold them accountable. So I don't think it works. It looks to not work when you don't go back, you don't know the laws, you don't even know what you want to ask for yourself. So it's not food stamps that you want. It's not free college that you want. What you want is stuff that can get you out the hole. And I think only if we unite to see what's on those books, see what they passed through legislation, looking at those laws and saying, okay, you said that, we can't agree with that because that's a mindset. I don't agree with them promising me stuff like this. But the other policies that I see on your books, I can agree with that because this is going to help my kids go through school. So we don't look past the stuff that we really need to pass, and we just be looking at the icing on the cake that sound good to the community, but that's not what we really need. So I think it falls by the wayside with when we get those candidates in place. They don't know what to do. They never been in the Black community. They don't experience. They going about what we tell them that we need. So they always been preaching that, all these years of Congress and legislation, they just preaching about what Black people say they need, but they ain't never been in the community to really understand. Okay, well, they said they need, but that's not what they need. They really need a whole system change. And these people don't even understand the laws that I'm talking about. So we may need education system so they know what they need to do. What candidate come and sit in Newtown and say, okay, these are the people that's on the board. This is what this means. This is what this means. If all 10 of y'all go and do this, this is what happens directly. Nobody comes do that because they bank on us not wanting to know. They bank on us not going back after the presidential election and getting those people that pass legislation out. So I just think some of it, I think Republican and Democrat is better of two evils, honestly. But, I just think it's lack of us really knowing what we want and being able to tell the candidates, like, you ain't gonna give us no BS. Right. That's not what we need. And they don't know. They just going by what we say.
So boom, I kind of want to talk about that. What seems to be a common factor here when I have these conversations with peers within the community, lack of education. Like I said early on about not knowing my rights at a young age, when having these encounters with the police. Could have went a whole different way had I known how to move. When it comes to the different demands that we should be asking, what it should look like, what we should be expecting of these different candidates. A lot of people don't even know who they're voting for when they're looking at this ballot. They're either voting just because someone told them to do it and they think that they should, they're following social media. This person seems to be more popular. A lot of people voted for Obama just because he was black. They didn't know what that man was talking about versus anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the education piece.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? Like, how can we, those of you that are knowledgeable about?
What I would say is, first, people need to understand, and I think, I don't know, maybe we learned it on like maybe 9th or 10th grade. I can't quite remember. It's been a while. But we need to understand how our government structure works. We need to understand that the presidential election is not as important as we think it is.
I was going there next.
Because everybody, if you ever voted, you voted in a presidential election. Okay, but then there's the midterm elections, but most importantly, there are your local elections, your primary, your senator, your state senators. Every state has 2. Your House of Representatives, they're split up. There's like 453 of those in Congress, and they're split up based on your state's population. Those individuals collectively, which make up the Congress, have more power than the president. They can override the president at any time with like, I think it's like a 2/3 majority of combined House and Senate. And then anything that the president does is null and void. So we need to focus more on who we send to Washington, D.C. to represent us as congressmen and as senators, rather than who we put in the presidential office.
And to be honest, Mr. Salem, you said the most factual statement I wish more people understood across the United States of America. White people have to make the change. We can't make the change. And a lot of people don't even understand the historical context of why you know Martin Luther King. The reason you know Martin Luther King is because white conservatives put dollars behind his NGO, non-governmental official organization, whatever you call it. Yes. They gave him that platform and marched him around America and funded everything he did so he can have that platform. And when he spoke against Vietnam War, that's when, we don't want to make the Trump supporters mad. So we don't want to make it seem like we're supporting this guy. He's preaching anti-American ideology, which is not anti-American ideology. It was humanity ideology. We got tens of thousands of soldiers over here dying. It's the only war America ever lost. They don't put that in the history book. They don't talk about that. That's the only war we never won. We never had a chance to win. We went to Vietnam, got our butts kicked, created Agent Orange. They're still suffering from the effects of that. We got our butts kicked. We can't take an L. And that's why Make America Great Again Trump is the perfect guy for America right now. A black man just died at the hands of the police, and this man not once mentioned his name. He didn't say nothing about George Floyd. His country is rioting, 25 plus states, rioting. And he not once. He had church. He had some fake church in the church. The church ended up putting him out saying he just took a picture, bro. So Trump is the perfect guy for the job right now. He is the epitome of America. He is what America is. We're going to piss on you and tell you it's raining. We're going to put a pacifier in your mouth when y'all start yelling too much. You know, I did more for black people than any other president. First off, I've been black 31 years. You can't tell me what you did when you're 31. And you ain't did a mother, you know what I'm saying? So it's like the fact that you have to use that. And you know fully well, black vote is just a swing. It's not even, white people put Obama in office. White voters put Obama in office. We don't have the numbers to put a black president in office. Look at the demographic of the United States. In Florida, all the African Americans in South Carolina, Broward, Miami, they're gonna always vote blue. They always vote Democrat. LA, you're gonna get always Democrat. The rest of America is white. Why do you think this Ku Klux Klan and all these? Trump is smart to a certain degree. He knows how to get stupid people to vote for him.
Absolutely.
He's endorsed by the Klan.
Absolutely.
Ask a Klan member what a quarantine is. They probably can't spell quarantine. Right. He knows how to get
smart. He does what he does because, and that's that dirty work. Like, you know, Trump he's smart in the sense of he don't have to say, y'all go out there and kick those black people, and he know just what to say for those ignorant country redneck racists to do the dirty work. And he falls under that. I didn't say that, or you know, people be like, no, what he meant was go drink bleach.
Yeah, it's lemonade,
right? And they be like, no, see, that's the Democrat idiots that just don't. what type of person do you have to be to not understand simple context? He said what he said, but he knows how to play with words to get people to react in it how he want them to react.
And to your point too about the voting and the politics. So, and about people voting for politicians who make promises or promise who's done this and that. Let's start here about why you should never vote about for someone or politician who's giving you a promise. And you should always vote or support someone who's proven. A politician makes promises. A proven person, he delivers. So if you look at the Constitution, it guarantees you inalienable rights. How many people look like me and you got them?
They had to pass the civil rights bill for us.
How many people look like me and you got them? We had to have a Civil Rights Act in 1964 to get a piece of it.
Yeah.
So those promises that these don't get excited when Bernie Sanders say food stamps for everybody. Don't get excited when, even with your Trump, he promised to build the wall. Time's almost up, buddy. Vote for somebody who's proven research. And like Mr. Salem said, the local office and officials, those are the people that have the biggest impact. When you will never feel a president if you're a working class, middle class, lower upper class person, you won't feel a president. You might feel them in taxes, a little bit. You might be able to go, buy you a Corolla 2020. You're not gonna feel a president if you're American. So you gotta try to vote for people who are proven on the ground, not some rich guy who owns half of America or I'm qualified because I'm rich. Can you read?
Right. So how do you get? The question becomes, how do you get the middle class, lower class excited about people that are in there?
Now those next question. Boom, we're right here in Sarasota, Manatee County. I can't speak for everybody that's a part of this. Maybe you could take this dialogue back to the folks that can make some things happen in your counties.
So let's talk.
Let's talk here. What do we do? How do we reach people? How do we educate? How do we let people know about the laws, knowing your rights? How do we let people know about who they need to vote for, how they need to vote, what's most important? Educating people even on what the branches look like, because a lot of people can't even tell you.
Right.
I don't think you should be voting if you don't understand that.
Yes.
Right. And so,
but how do we educate them?
So okay, so there's several. First of all, social media, Google. There are plenty of things that are plentiful, but I think what has to happen is people have to really want to really do something about this stuff, and not be emotional and a popularity thing about politics and things that are going on in your community. If there are people that's out there that are pushing, y'all need to get involved, or it don't count. We can't talk about this on social media because they just had this and you didn't show up, or we say, oh, well, it's the white people that got to make a change. Okay, so if they make an effort, for instance, I'm doing a local vote for Hope in Manatee County. So I'm bringing the supervisor elections that's going to come and educate people on the 3 branches, how to vote, who to vote in Manatee County. And only 15 people sign up.
Oh, man.
Paul, go ahead and let the people know right now. Go ahead and let the people know where they can, when this is happening, what's happening, how can they sign up?
So July 15th, we have the Manatee County Supervisor of Election. The location is to be announced, but he's coming to educate. A lot of people may have missed it in class, but he's coming to educate people on why it's so important to vote on a local level. So we started a campaign called Local Vote Equals Hope. And he's going to come out and speak. And we're going to try to get everybody registered to vote by July 20th, because that is the deadline to vote for the primaries. So if you're not registered to vote, y'all can come here to my office, call 941-567-4988. I'm here Monday through Friday. I'll sign you up. I got books. We got computers. If you don't understand the process, I am here every day to walk you through the process. And if I'm not here, call that number and we can make an appointment and I'll be there. But July 15th, the time and the date will be available. The time is at 5 o'clock or 5:15. I can't remember offhand.
Call it 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 5 o'clock. So it's July 15th at 5 o'clock, but the location will be announced. To sign up and to be a part of that, you go to www.2champ.
You have your paper in front of you.
Two campaigns. I'll put it in the link. I will put it in the link. So I'm gonna put it in the link now. and y'all go to that site, and then you just register, and all the information about what's coming up will be sent to you in an email, and it'll have the time and the date. So y'all asking for action steps, we can't, it's step by step, but it's a step that you could take right now. And we're going to get people registered to vote for the primaries. We're going to start there. If you need education about it, we're going to do it there. So there's an action step.
Knowledge is definitely power. So someone in the comments said, what do y'all think are the most important offices to vote for this cycle? I think it's the sheriff's race in Sarasota.
Okay. Oh, good one. Man, that's one right there that is really, really, really sad. Let me explain to you why it's sad. The sheriff in Sarasota County does not have to get one single vote out of the Newtown area to be elected sheriff. You got to follow me on this because it's important. The sheriff is Republican. Most of the people in Newtown are Democrats. So they don't get to vote in the primary and choose a different Republican candidate because it's just a Republican candidate. The sheriff is elected by the rest of the county. No, Newtown plays no part. He gets no votes out of that area because all of the people are in one party. If you want to have a say in who your sheriff is in Sarasota, you're going to have to switch parties to another party in order to be able to elect the sheriff. Hands down. It's the only way it's done. You can look at it. I mean, it's sad, but it's true.
And that's harmony. So, I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Salem. Everybody was like, "Oh, I'm black. I've got to be a Democrat to vote Democrat." No, it's harmony to not agree with people. It's Democrats that I don't agree with. It's people who look like me that I don't agree with. It's family members I don't agree with. That is harmony. That's called life. So don't just be naive and just say, "Well, I'm doing this because this," or like you said earlier, voting for Obama because he's black. Well, I'll be the first to say it. Obama's the first time he ran, I went to the polling station and did not vote. I was like, man, I'm a working class man. I was a college graduate at the time, voted in college and in Pennsylvania. And I was like, I'm not gonna feel him. Like there's no, just because he's black, I'm gonna vote for him. I was not educated on any of his policies. All I knew was somebody who looked like me running for president. That's not enough grounds for me to vote. The second time around, I pushed the vote 3 times.
Now, that brings about a question real quick to that. So I was thinking, so my opposite. So I didn't, I was young too. I didn't know about Obama policy. But what struck me was, okay, we don't want nobody that's, that's black, that's really gonna run over the black people. But but voting for representation, about knowing policy, not like it's whether we know. I mean, we've been doing it for all these years for the white people. So whether we know about policy or not, do you think for the sake of representation of having black people in higher positions is important?
Well, I'm gonna say it this way, and I'm gonna throw this one out there. I voted for Obama. One, I voted Democrat party line. That's how I've always voted. But I would have voted for Obama if he was a Republican just because he was black. And let me tell you why. And a lot of people feel this way, but they won't say it. I'm a straight shooter, so I'm gonna tell you. In order to achieve some things in life, you need to see yourself in that position. When I became a firefighter in Sarasota County, I didn't see any other black firefighters in Sarasota County. There's over 500 of us there now, and 16 of us black. And at the time when I got hired, at the time I got hired, there was only like 5 or 6 blacks, and the numbers have grown a little bit since I got hired. But you got to understand that in order for our kids to have hope and aspirations to achieve things, they need to see themselves as that. They have to see themselves as an astronaut. When McNeil became an astronaut, there was other blacks that followed in that path. You know what I'm saying? So you have to fight to get African Americans in these positions that are competent, of course, for the position. But it's important that we see our people in positions of power. I'm gonna drop this on you. Most people don't even know it, that black folks were bigger in government doing after the Civil War, doing what was it called? Reconstruction. We had black mayors, black black governors, and I learned this from one of your some kid from fam wrote this book. I wrote this, and I read a book on Florida, full of black political leaders. But nevertheless, we did better then, and so we can do it again. But we need to respect our money. As black folks, we need to respect our money. Money is power, and real estate and land ownership is the ultimate power. If you own a piece of America, you own America. But if you renting and you don't own a piece of America, you at will of your landlord and all the other people that own your land. So we need to mind our money. Our money is more powerful than our vote. Our money is more powerful than our vote. And we steady give I'm gonna give you a quick lesson. You give your money to Walmart. Walmart takes your money and turns around and donates it to the Trump campaign and oppress you. So what did you just do? You just paid for your oppression. Think about that.
So
Drop one, please.
yep, he dropped the bomb. But then it's like, tell us the alternative. Where would you suggest that we shop other than Walmart? Because, and we've talked about this, we try to patronize some black businesses, and it's kind of like, come on. Some are very professional, and some it's just kind of like, okay, you need to get your things together.
Well, to that note, so my stance on that is very unique. So I understand that a small percent of Americans control a large portion of the capital. So integration in dollars, we can only benefit as Black Americans because we have white, blue, green dollars coming in.
Absolutely.
Because they have access to the capital. So if we got $10 circulating amongst 20 businesses, there's no growth. There's no money coming in. There's no escrow. There's no profit. There's no new dollar. So as far as just shopping Black, I don't agree like that. And I think Killer Mike did a documentary. I think my boy Ed James told me that. Killer Mike did a documentary where he tried to just do everything Black. He had to like ride a bike 2 hours for food.
Yeah,
he couldn't even but that is a result of systematic oppression, systematic access to owning land. You gotta understand, indentured servitude for the promise 40 acres and a mule. Well, if you never have access to your 40 acres and a mule, you have no foundation to escrow or grow. Right. So that systematic oppression, systematic racism, so to say, is why you can't really just shop Black. And in all reality, you don't want to just shop Black. If I know the pool over there, if all the money over there, I don't want to just shop over there. Right. I don't want to build no business where only Black people come in. No, I want some of their dollars too. They take mine every day.
And to speak that, like I'm not gonna call out any, businesses or, stuff, but I want to say something. I agree with what you're saying, like wholeheartedly. We leave a lot of money on the table. Like we go and like, okay, so it's just like if people say, I'm gonna throw a birthday party. And I say, okay, I'm gonna throw a birthday party right here on 75th. And they're like, why are you throwing on 75th? That's the white people neighborhood. But the white people neighborhood is where you're gonna have access to, make your party bigger. Like, why do you want to leave that on the table? You get it and then you go build. So I think like in businesses, sometimes, we separate and leave a whole bunch of money on the table. Like I always tell you, like the Black Chamber, not the Black Chamber of Commerce, but the regular Chamber of Commerce that I'm a part of in, you could call it white chamber, but it's only like 2 Black people there. So if you got like 2 Black people and they the only 2 people in businesses, that means them other 600 businesses getting all the money. So why, they be like, don't be a part of. But why we leave so much money on the table by being like, no, I'm only going to deal with Black people when the state, the county money, that's your money too. You should profit off of the money that the state has there for business. But I feel like we also give a lot of money away when it comes to business because we just, like you say, you can't just shop Black. You got to go over there and get where the money is and bring it and put it back in the community.
We shouldn't try to do that either because desegregation has occurred. We're well in it. But the only thing about it, we haven't really truly realized the benefits of desegregation because of the systemic racism.
Right.
Yes.
So what we need to do is we need to get the systemic racism out of the way. We got to legislate our way out of that. And we just got to downright change the hearts of people. Because that's a big part of it. There's some people out there that just really have bad hearts.
Yeah. So even if you want to get a piece of the pie, there's 8 people that's trying to keep you from.
Right. Absolutely. Like, for example, black farmers, I think it was like maybe a year or two ago, black farmers still had to sue the federal government to get loans that they were denied to just farm. Wow. And that's been the history of black farmers in America. You got to understand, I'm going to tell you something. We as black folk, we were, how can we not have all black farmers in America? We were slaves. We did all that.
Right. Nobody else knew how to do it.
We did all the farming. Just think about this. This will show white America how messed up.
Why we got a Whole Foods?
Out of all things that we can do, we can farm. We can farm. We can farm.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? But what did they do to us? They used the KKK. Because this is what happened after slavery. This is what happened. The master, he didn't care nothing about but money. That's all the master wanted was money. And he had these white overseers that oversaw the black slaves. Mm-hmm. The black slaves outnumbered them. So what he did is he gave the black slaves a plot of land called sharecropping. He gave the white overseer a plot of land called sharecropping. But the blacks outdid them and they land grew. Like he kept taking land from the other ones to give to the black ones because they were producing more. But what did they do? They bought in the KKK, came terrorized the black family. They left town overnight. Left it. Now the white man got to depend on the other white man. Mm-hmm. But then who's the KKK now? The federal government. Because what the federal government is doing, denying black farmers loans. Mm-hmm. So he's terrorizing them again, making them leave farming. So you still have that to the day. You still have redlining. You still have a restriction or access to capital. My business, I try to go get a loan. My partners try to go to get a loan. They still have hurdles they got to jump over. Even though our numbers look good, everything looks good, it's still a problem. You got a cop on the street that racially profiles a black man. Then you got a judge that disproportionately sentenced him compared to a person with the same points can go to prison and one get probation. How does this happen? So those are the types of things that we need to change. We need to take away some of the power that judges have. We need to give them some lines to stay within. If a person do this, and this is what they get. Right. If their priors do this is what they get. Right. Judges have too much, I think the word may be latitude. They sentencing disparities can go all which way.
Yeah,
you need to reel them in some.
Like, what about you see, like the crimes? I know several people who wrong place, wrong time.
Right.
They went somewhere with a friend, and the friend may have done something stupid and got killed. So they charged the person that was in the car that didn't even see the scuffle of the other person, and then get 25 years for killing his friend. Like he charged with murder, but didn't even see what happened, the scuffle in the background. Right. His friend just got shot and died, but he got 25 years. And so that's a black man at home, and now he got kids that he won't see for 25 to life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then how is it that in America this day that black babies are still have the highest infant mortality rate? How is that? Mm-hmm. How is that? Yeah. How is that?
The health system. I mean, if you think about it from a healthcare standpoint, okay? From a healthcare standpoint, African Americans, and it's crazy because this is why Obama was labeled a socialist, because he actually cared about people. Obamacare is just ensuring that person who doesn't have insurance don't have to wait till him or her doesn't have to wait till the lump in their chest to get hard and start hurting, and the cancer is already spread through their body, so they have a fighting chance to catch it.
Right.
That's all it is.
Right.
The kid that has a asthma attack in the middle of the night that dies, he can go to the doctor and he can get checked out. But all Obamacare is just making sure that the underserved, health-wise, have some kind of access to health. It's cheaper.
Can we just talk about this inhaler? My boyfriend inhaler costs $500.
Wow.
For one, without insurance. And he got to do it twice a day. He got severe asthma.
Right. And that is the overt sneaky racism that we talk about, because then you have the white America that says, like when we put up that post about, I think they should just bail out student loans. Like they just need to bail people out. So you got Obamacare, but there are people that don't want, like, what is not American about wanting to help somebody that can't afford healthcare and really your tax. You taxing like a cent.
What is
to get, every
our
American.
tax dollars pay for it?
Our
Our tax dollars pay for everything.
Everything.
I don't want to pay for
about?
tax dollars. Like, it sounds stupid when you say it out loud. I don't want my tax dollars to pay to save somebody's life.
There's a problem when the people that are denying you health care, you are paying for their health care.
Yeah.
Think about it. We continuously pay for our own oppression.
Yeah.
We pay for our own oppression. It's sad. It's sad.
That's true.
Yeah, it's like, what is is no one answer.
Yeah.
Because it's a system.
Yeah,
It's a whole thing. Like, you don't have to break down walls. Go back to the beginning of the conversation. We empathize with George Floyd and the Rodney, but then then you got people that post, well, he was a criminal. So that means he get killed?
Right.
We're like, you're not making no sense. I don't understand.
And I will bet, I ain't no millionaire, but I will bet every coin I make for the next 5 years, if you show me one human being in the United States that's never broken the law, I give it to you.
Right. I'd be willing so
Remember, not knowing the law don't mean it ain't legal. Every human being has broken the law, but some people get harsher sentences. Some people get harsher repercussions. If you don't turn on your blanket and go let that be broken off.
Not some people, black people.
Yeah.
Black people.
Yeah.
And it's important. It's important. Now, it's very important that we don't allow this to be hijacked. Because it has happened before. It needs to be focused on blacks.
Yes.
Period.
Yeah.
The Jewish people, America did nothing to the Jewish people. Nothing but save them. That's the only thing America did. We didn't kill not one over in Germany. We saved them. We saved them. But the Holocaust is more important than the history of slavery in America.
Yeah.
How is that?
And
Because we allow it.
Yeah, and all they do for the black community is they put up museums that they stole. They
Stole
stole
all the
everything,
artifacts.
and they want to charge us to go see our history. Like, I think that should be free to every black
It should be
person.
returned to the country. That's what should happen. These museums should have to return all those artifacts back to these places where they stole them from.
They looted.
Yeah, they looted.
Right. No, where they're still looting.
Yeah.
Right. It's been like 500 years of looting.
Absolutely.
But that's so un-American to loot it right.
Oh,
okay.
America is looting right. Next to the definition, that should be their America.
We got a lot of work to do.
I hope this conversation, so naturally, because the conversation is so uncomfortable for people who don't believe racism exists, they feel uncomfortable. So I hope this conversation makes you feel uncomfortable to the point where you got to move, because uncomfortable people move.
Yeah.
If you in your bed and you in the pillow on the wrong side, you're gonna move.
Yes, sir.
Comfortable people gonna move.
Yes, sir.
So it's enough being quiet and you guys always come in. Oh, and it's so easy to pick up. But what about the kid who killed the tourists from Europe? Okay, one. What about the hundreds of thousands of people who died and killed that look like me for no reason? I'm 31 years old. I can name 20 people that would be my age that aren't alive.
Right.
And all that black on black crime, no, ain't no damn such thing as black on black crime.
Such thing.
It's the system that replaced it.
Absolutely.
Literacy rates in African American schools, Title I school, there's a direct correlation to how many prisons they were built based off third grade reading levels. Hello, somebody. If you have people impoverished, if you have 15 people chasing $1, what are we gonna do? Yeah, that way. So you got to think about it. The system and what we're given. If you know why you can go to Big Cat Habitat and look at those lions, and you see the humans walking around with them, and they play them and they train them because they keep them fed. That's why they don't get ate. They keep those lions fed well. They don't give them a chance to be hungry to use their natural instinct of treating you like a piece of bologna. Period. That's all it is.
Great knowledge there, bro.
All right. So, okay. I'm definitely feeling this dialogue. Again, my panel was great. I'm going to propose to you guys, and I'll talk to you off screen, that we do a part 2 of this. At a later time, we'll set it up and see what. I just kind of want to delve some more into some stuff because I feel like what's going to happen is, and it happens all the time, people talking, people be fired up, things are happening, the protests and the this and that, and then it just stops. And here we are, it's going to be 5 years later, and then we're going to be right back here again because something else has sparked something. So it's like when the dialogue starts, get people talking, get people uncomfortable, maybe we'll start to actually see a shift. Maybe that awareness will start to come. My goal with this platform is to educate. I bring people on here. I'm not privy of politics at all, but I've learned so much just in dialogue with the people that I have close to me. I'm not privy on all the laws and things, but I learned so much just from dialogue that I have with people and a little bit of research. So educate, using the people that I know to bring it to you guys. Hopefully you guys take it and take it to the people that you know. We have to work together, guys. If there's going to be any change, it's going to have to come from us working together, getting these allies, and actually keeping that wheel going. It shouldn't just stop here.
May I make one more closing statement, Chandra? I know we have a discussion, and I think I want us to stop. I'm not doing it because, like, even if you don't think it's gonna count, like, you got to show up every time. So when I say, Chandra, what programs, like, black men need to be on the force, they don't want to do it. Like, how, you know what I'm saying? But I think people need to, be a part of the force. If they can. I mean, there's probably gateways that they really, okay, we only allow 2 or 3 a year.
But it's gotten to the point right now where because of everything that's going on, they're desperate for it.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll pay for you to go to school. We'll pay you while you're in school. And it's kind of like I see some people that show interest and I reach out. I'm like, hey, if you need anything, let me know. Like,
so that's still on the table.
It's still on the table, and not one person has ever followed through.
And before we close too, I want everybody watching this to understand this. And this is to Chandra, and that's because that's my childhood friend, and just because I don't care what you think. But anyway, folks, understand this. Historically in America, the most abused human being is the African American woman.
You better
now imagine this. She has 1 strike for being a woman. She has 2 strikes for being an African American woman. And now she's beat on the 3rd time by being a police officer. So think about that before you cast judgment or treat her a different way or how you work for them. She's already stumbled enough by us. So they're going to stumble regardless because she's black. And then we're going to stump her for being a police. And then we're going to stump her too for being a woman. Let's keep blood raw, Clark. Black women are the most abused people, single mothers, relationships, whatever you want to call it, however you want to do it. They're the most abused human beings in America.
But they carry the world on their back.
Last to be able to vote. The women's suffrage movement was because a white lady got mad because a black man owned land and he could vote. And she couldn't. I'm better than this nigga boy. How can he vote? He owned land. So the women's suffrage movement was led by whites to vote because a black man had the right to vote in the country. And she felt better. And then the African Americans got on in that. So remember that when you think about Sergeant or detective.
Okay, get right. Now she got on me last time. Get right. All right. Well, I definitely want to thank you guys again for being a part of this conversation with me. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. All the comments, I'm going to go back and read these and get to you guys. I know Lena wanted to drop some information in there about her event that's coming up in July. And we're going to run this back again. Make sure you guys comment, share, tag your people in. This is Village Talk, and it really is. And even if you don't live in my area, I know there are a couple of people on here from all over. Take this back to your village as well. Let it spread like wildfire, just like all these protests. Because if you want to see major change on a big scale, you have to start small and grow and grow and grow. So that's my time, guys. I'll be right back here next week, Thursday, 8 p.m. for another conversation on As Told by Nay. Let's talk about it.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Good job.
Y'all, okay.